What's going on, guys? Exciton Elimination 19 has just wrapped up, so obviously I'm here to go over the event, talk about what decks entered, look at the top 2 deck lists, and see if there was any cool tech cards or anything interesting to note from this event. Obviously, if you're new to this, Exciton Elimination is a online hat format tournament. It's double elimination, and it's held through the Hat Alliance Discord server. So if you guys are interested in playing in online hat format tournaments, I definitely suggest going and joining the Hat Alliance Discord server. I will have that linked in the video description. Definitely go down there, check it out. There's a ton of people willing to talk about different hat format decks and different theories on different card choices and stuff like that. And again, multiple different chances to play in hat format tournaments. But anyways, the Exciton Elimination was 12 players. It's an alright amount. The thing with this one specifically this time around was the Mortaltech Monthly started the day before, and so some people probably put a little more time into wanting to top that event, as that is a multi-day Swiss tournament. But anyways, for this, 12 players, so let's go over the breakdown for this event. A big thing to note here is we see 3 artifact trap tricks. So out of 12 people, a fourth of them were on artifact trap tricks. Next, there were 2 Constellar artifact, 1 Heraldic Beast, 1 Evil Swarm, 1 of the Blaze Phoenix Geargia decks, 1 Madolche, 1 Lightsworn ruler, 1 Hieratic ruler, and 1 Bujin. But yeah, the big thing to take away from this is just 3 artifact trap tricks and only 1 Geargia deck, and it wasn't even like a Geargia Hands or pure Geargia. It was the Blaze Phoenix version. That's something that's extremely interesting, just given that usually, artifact trap tricks and Geargia are the most 2 dominant decks in most of these events. So seeing that like Geargia was almost non-existent, even though it was only 12 players, that still is something kind of shocking. Also, let me just go over this again. No Spellbook and no Mermail either is something that is a little bit different. And seeing that, Constellar Artifact took up 2 spots, again, out of 12 players, that is something kind of interesting. I know some people really like this deck, some people really don't. But I think it's pretty cool, and the deck can do some cool things. So very interesting to see that. But overall, all the other decks are pretty standard to see at least, one of in any sort of top cut, or I shouldn't say top cut, any sort of hat format tournament in general, though I would say, all of these decks for the most part have had a top at some point. But yeah, that's it for the breakdown. So looking at first and second place, obviously we see Hieratic ruler and Bujin, and let me just swap over here real quick. So yeah, first place was Hieratic ruler, and second place was Bujin. Both of these players have really been grinding it out, so congrats to both of these players. Big Bert, I believe at the last Exciton Elimination, got second place with Hieratic ruler as well, but there had been a problem on Format Library with their deck list at the time, so I wasn't even able to go over that. So really looking forward to going over this, as well as I believe he had recently won the Duelist Cup, I want to say, or one of the other online hat format tournaments. I might be getting them a little confused since I go over so many events and stuff. So really been grinding it out, and Extra Power had also recently won an event as well, as, both of these players very common names in the online hat format kind of circuit, if you want to call it. I believe he had just won the Pleiades payout that had taken place also with Bujin. So I could probably figure that this list is going to be pretty similar to that one. But overall, really cool to see Hieratic ruler we haven't seen too often in general. So again, really looking forward to that. So let's go and take a look at those deck lists. So here we have the first place Hieratic ruler list, and it's been a little while since I actually looked at Hieratic ruler in terms of the deck list that they had brought to the last Exciton Elimination, because once Format Library had actually updated the results and everything, I did take a look at their list, but I hadn't looked at it in a video or anything like that. So, there's a lot to talk about already just compared to like a standard list. So, I'm going to go through the card by card first, and then we can talk about, the different choices and why I think some of these are kind of cool and things like that. So, they had 2 copies of Flameveil Guard, 2 copies of Labradorite Dragon, Blaster, Redox, Tidal, and Tempest for the Dragon Rulers, obviously. 1 copy of Debris Dragon, 1 Corseska, 3 copies of Esset, 1 copy of Nebthet, 3 copies of Sue, 2 copies of Tefnuit, and that's it for the monsters. For the spells, we see 3 cards of Consonance, 3 Dragon Shrine, 2 Forbidden Lance, 2 Convocation, 2 Reasoning, 3 copies of Soul Charge, and 3 Upstart, and for the traps, we just see the standard 3 copies of Skill Drain. So the first thing that really stands out when I'm going through this list is, first off, the 3 copies of Esset and the 2 copies of Tefnuit, my bad. So the big thing with this is usually Tefnuit you would consider to be a 3 of most lists, if not all, for a long time have been on 3 copies of Tefnuit, simply because going second, it's your Cyber Dragon, it's a free special summon, so it can kind of get your plays started. And that's one of the things that this deck really kind of struggled with, was, having plays if you go first, because it's really hard since, you have to have a monster on board already to tribute to kind of get your Hieratic engine going, or you need to open Soul Charge plus a handful of different cards that are going to go and allow you to get things in graveyard. So with that, I think that kind of comes down again to these copies of Esset as well as the copies of Reasoning. So Esset obviously is able to be normal summoned without tributing, but its attack is halved, and since, your Sues and stuff can be special summoned by tributing, then, opening this plus another Hieratic really gets your plays online, so this makes so that going first isn't as bad, and Reasoning is an extremely interesting card in this deck specifically, simply because you would expect this not to be the best card, but the thing is, with the dragons in general and Hieratic Ruler, what we see is, for example, Flameveil Guard is a level 1. Labradorite is a level 6, similar to, your Tefnuits and Sues. Then you have your Dragon Rulers, which are 7s, and you have things like your Essets, which are going to be level 5s. And same with Nebthet, I believe, is also level 5. So you actually have a lot of levels, so there's a good chance of actually going and getting to summon one of these monsters, which can then, in theory, get you to either a tribute summon, which if you then have more Hieratics, you can go from there, or it just instantly sort of opens up your Soul Charge plays. The other thing is, obviously, Dragon Rulers are known for playing out of the graveyard, as well as having fuel for your Soul Charge, so even if they call it right, being able to get that card in graveyard can fuel, your Dragon Rulers or your Soul Charges, as I just mentioned. So I actually really like the inclusion of that, just for the options. Now, obviously, this deck plays a handful of monsters, so there's a good chance you might not get that many mills, but I feel like in any sort of case, you don't really care about the mills, because look at these cards that are in the spell and trap spots here. You really, honestly, it's okay to see these. Next up, the Forbidden Lance. This is a card you don't really see in any sort of ruler deck that often, but in general, it's honestly really good. It lets you play around a lot of the opponent's back row that can really hurt this deck, as well as, there's different interactions with things like Skill Drain and just other stuff. Overall, I really like this list. I like how it looks, and let's talk about the side deck now. They chose to play 3 copies of DD Crow. They do have the extra copy of Tefnuit in here, which I would assume comes in going second, and 2 copies of Max C. Next, they play 1 copy of Wingbeat of Giant Dragon. Again, just a really good going second card. I'm sure this comes in when the extra Tefnuit does going second, just to blow out all the back row from the opponent when, this format in general is known for the back row. After that, we see 1 Dark Hole, 1 copy of Chalice. That's kind of an interesting take, just to have an extra card there. A little strange, but, if they had an extra spot, it's definitely a great going second card. And then we see the 3rd copy of Lance here. After that, 3 copies of MST, very standard, and 2 copies of Emptiness. This deck can play things like Stardust Spark. So, if you have this plus Stardust Spark, that can just win certain matchups. overall, looks really good. Looking at the extra deck, we see 1 copy of Black Rose, 1 copy of Michael. Let me take a look here real quick on, this is, Michael requires, I believe, a light monster, and is it a generic tuner? Let me see if this wants to load. Lately, some of these sites have been going really slow. Like, there was a problem with Dueling Book for a little bit. Yeah, it's not really wanting to load right now. But if I recall, I think Michael might just need a tuner and then a light monster. So obviously lots of ways to make that. It also can mill things. So again, just getting more dragons into your graveyard is really good. After that, 1 Scrap Dragon, 1 Star Eater, 1 Stardust, and 1 Stardust Spark. All looks good. After that, 1 copy of Pleiades, because you can technically make this with your Essets and Nebthet. 2 copies of Gaia Dragon. It comes up a lot, honestly, just being able to go over your King Atum's, which is good. 1 copy of Gauntlet Launcher. It feels like it's been a long time since I've seen this card in a hat list. I know in Vegas and some other formats, this was like a prime card, and it's overall a really good card in general. 1 Draco Sack, 1 Big Eye, and then the 1 copy of Photon Strike Bouncer. Honestly, again, really cool list. It's really nice to see Hieratic Ruler in a top spot, and especially in a winning spot. So really cool. Again, congrats to this player, and let's move on to the second place Bujin list. So here we have the Bujin list from Extra Power, and as I expected, it is extremely similar to their last list that they had brought to the last event they played in. So I'm just going to go through the card by cards. I've talked about this list so much in the past, where definitely if you want to, hear more of an opinion on this list in general, then check out one of the previous tournament review videos. But for this list, they played 1 Harume, 2 copies of Mikazuchi, 3 Yamato, 3 Crane, 2 Hare, 1 Quillen, 1 Sinew, 2 copies of Turtle, 2 DD Crow, and the 1 copy of Honest. For the spells, they played 3 Carnation, 3 Tenki, 2 Chalice, 3 Lance. I think that's actually different. I believe last time they played 2 and 2, so that's kind of something to note. Usually Bujin would play a lot of times like 2 to 3 Lance, so it's not like unheard of, but obviously if they're expecting a lot more back row and stuff, or just in general their matchups have been a little decided by some of the back row, then Lance is definitely a good card. And as we saw in the last list, that more people are hopping on the Forbidden Lance train, as well as like other previous events. We even saw like Geargia lists and stuff, some of them playing Lance. So this is becoming more and more of a popular card. So seeing 3 versus 2 is completely fine. After that, 3 copies of Duality and 2 copies of Upstart, so maybe they just cut an Upstart for a Lance here, which would be my guess, which I guess, Upstart just helps you get through your deck faster, but if you just open the card you want to see anyways, then it's not bad. Obviously, Tenki gets into Yamatos quickly, you have your 3 Yamatos, plus you have your Dualities, so it's very easy to kind of get into your stuff when you need it at times, plus, making so your opponent doesn't get a extra 1,000, for example, for a Soul Charge play is always nice. For the traps, we see 1 Bottomless, 3 Breakthrough Skill, 1 copy of Warning, and 1 Torrential. Overall, again, I think it was just that 1 change for the main deck. For the side deck, though, I see one big difference, which is they were siding 1 copy of Centipede. Centipede is the one that pops set cards. I believe it's set, not just spell and traps. It could just be spell and traps. I don't entirely remember off the top of my head. I know it's something with sets. Whether, again, that could be just set spell or traps or just set cards in general. I really don't remember for some reason, even though I've been testing this around in a different Bujin variant that will be shown off on the channel in the future. I'm not sure if it'll make the cut though, but in general, really cool card, and I'm glad to see some of the like lesser known ones like Sinew are starting to see a lot more play as of late, so really cool to see that. After that, we see the 3rd copy of Crow, and then 3 Max C. After that, 1 Dark Hole, 1 Mind Control, 3 MST, and the 1 copy of Twister. After that, 2 copies of DNA Surgery and 2 copies of Debunk. I think they were on 3 of either DNA Surgery or Debunk the last time, so I'm guessing they took 1 of those out, if I'm remembering correctly, for the Centipede. For the extra deck, we see 1 Dweller, 1 Kakatsuchi, 3 copies of Susano, 1 Omega, 1 Direwolf, 1 Exciton, 1 Cowboy, 1 101, 1 Ragna Zero, 1 Black Ship, 1 Heartland Draco, 1 copy of Crazy Box, and 1 Paladynamo. Overall, again, really solid list. This player, has shown that they know what they're doing with Bujin, so there's not really a whole lot to talk about. Always great to see them in the top spots. But anyways, guys, that is all for Exciton Elimination 19. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. If you did, make sure to leave a like on this video, comment any questions or videos you want to see in the future, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell to get notified anytime I put a new video out, share this video with your friends, and again, let me know what you guys thought of this event in the comment section. And anyways, guys, I will see you in the next video.